Good Wednesday morning, everybody. Little War Eagle wake up after what was a pretty chaotic, not necessarily chaotic, but a pretty big day for Auburn football on Tuesday. Guys, if you're just watching this on YouTube, a lot of you guys are probably already over at the site at auburnundercover.com, but definitely make sure to check us out over there if you're only seeing us for the first time on YouTube. Everything that I'm going to talk about today has already been reported on at our site and has been in way more detail. This is just a quick little way to for people to kind of start their morning off and get a quick recap of the previous day that we've been doing. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. We're closing in on 7,000 subscribers, which is huge. That's a pretty big deal for us. So we're making the move there. So if you're not subscribed already, definitely make sure to do that and help us out. It's totally free. Doesn't cost you anything. Without further ado, let's get into the video. The title is going to be some sort of Auburn double dipping on North Texas transfers. Because that's how the day went. And we're going to start with actually the second transfer because I have his commitment graphic that we had made. That is Larry Nixon III, the linebacker that comes in as a graduate transfer for Auburn's defense there. Former first team All-Conference USA selection. That was last year in 2022. Last year, he was the Mean Green's second leading tackler with 105 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss and a sack. He finished his career with almost 250 tackles there. It's Auburn's third linebacker edition now. So you saw, Auburn didn't sign any high school linebackers in the 2023 class. So you pick up Austin Keys out of Ole Miss in the first portal window. He's going to be your Mike linebacker there in the middle. He has 2 years of eligibility left, and he had a pretty impressive spring practice. Auburn feels pretty good about him. And you also picked up Demario Tolan, the second-year player now, who was previously at LSU, who the previous staff recruited heavily. Was unable to land, but the new staff lands him out of the transfer portal, and he's expected to be over at that will position. And he had a pretty solid spring, but he still has some stuff to learn. He's a younger guy, and now he's transitioning again to a new defense. So Auburn brings in Larry Nixon III to also play that will position, kind of on the outside a little bit more, as kind of a mentor, bridge the gap a little bit to Demario Tolan. You have Cam Riley there as well. You have some different options there at that spot, but when I talked to Larry Nixon, he said, this is where they want me. His quote was, everything I just saw on film now is perfect. I can do everything that they want me to do. Talking about where they want him on the defense there at that will linebacker position. In the portal rankings too, he was the number 1 portal linebacker that was still available in the 24/7 Sports Transfer Portal rankings. He was the number 35 overall linebacker in the portal rankings. Portal rankings are very interesting in terms of it's tough to give a ranking because every guy brings something different. Larry Nixon is a 1-year guy that Auburn will get good use out of and then move on in a year because he only has a year of eligibility left. It's tough to gauge portal rankings with years of eligibility, fit on team and whatnot. So Larry Nixon's not the highest rated player, but Auburn feels pretty good about landing him, feels really good about landing him. Miami was heavily in pursuit, and kind of up until the end, Miami felt pretty good. West Virginia as well, which is where one of his former coaches was in the mix. So while West Virginia is not a powerhouse, there was a connection there. And usually in the portal, connections went out. Look at Dylan Wade, Jaden Muskrat, those former Tulsa offensive linemen joining Philip Montgomery. So Auburn wins out for Larry Nixon. That was the second commitment of the day. The first commitment of the day came on offense, and Jyaire Shorter, who is pretty fun addition to Auburn's offense. We keep talking about this reshaped offense. You already brought in Rivaldo Fairweather in the first portal window. You reshaped the O-line. You brought in Peyton Thorne at quarterback, obviously, who's expected to compete for the starting job, and all expectations kind of are that he will start. You had Nick Martiner in the first portal window as well. And then at receiver, you picked up Caleb Burton, the former Ohio State receiver, who is really, really talented. Injuries kind of derailed the end of his high school career and the start of his Ohio State career. He didn't see the field as a freshman, but if he can stay healthy, Auburn got a big piece there. But then this one's a little different. Jyaire Shorter, exact same as Larry Nixon, and the fact that he's a 1-year graduate transfer. You bring him in. Look, let's say something doesn't work out. He gets injured or whatever. You're only tied to his scholarship for a year, but you're really hoping he stays healthy, and you're really hoping he can be a big impact because the 2 years that he's been really healthy at North Texas, he was dominant, over 20 touchdowns in those 2 years. In the 2022 season for North Texas, on a team that did not have good quarterback play, he caught 23 passes for 628 yards and 11 touchdowns. So almost 50% of his receptions were touchdowns. He was targeted 55 times, and he only had 5 drops. I mean, he was an explosive player. You talk about those receptions to yards and touchdowns. He had 27.3 yards per catch. That's the best average in college football in 2022. And his 11 touchdowns were tied for the 7th most in the nation. That's just on 23 receptions. So obviously he's dealt with injuries. He had a couple of leg injury and a toe injury that derailed 2 different seasons for him. But ideally he stays healthy, and ideally he could be a pretty big deep threat for Auburn. Not only that, it's another bigger receiver, which is exactly what we talk about Hugh Freeze and Auburn wanting in this receiver room, and kind of what they've had success in. Jyaire Shorter, looking it up now, he's listed by North Texas at 6'2", 218. He actually enrolled, he was ranked as a recruit as a tight end. So you bring in another bigger body who can win some jump balls, be a red zone threat. He has the speed, clearly, to be a deep threat. So it's another piece for Auburn on offense. And Auburn's not done on offense either. Jackson Hooks, the former Jackson State, Shane Hooks, the former Jackson State wide receiver, is another big target for Auburn. And I think Auburn still wants to land him. Even after Auburn had signed Caleb Burton, Hugh Freeze told reporters, I think it was at the Regents Pro-Am event, he said, look, we still want to add 1 or maybe 2 more wide receivers. Shane Hooks would be that second guy. Auburn has backed off pretty much completely of Montana Lamonius Craig, the former Colorado receiver. So you can scratch him off the board. That's not a name that we're monitoring anymore. But at receiver, still keep an eye on Shane Hooks. Defensively, still keep an eye on Isaac Ukwu, that former James Madison edge rusher who could be the jack linebacker, defensive end, kind of a hybrid guy. So maybe another receiver, maybe another defensive end. Auburn is still toying around with the idea of another safety as well out of the portal. But Auburn has the number 3 transfer portal class right now in the 24/7 Sports transfer portal rankings. So Auburn cleans up again with another big Tuesday. So that was the War Eagle Wake Up. To recap that, like I said at the beginning, guys, if you're just watching this on YouTube, if you've never been to our site before, there's so much more in depth on these guys. Please go to our site at auburnundercover.com. Depth chart impact, commitment analysis, commitment stories. I talked with Jyaire Shorter. Should have him on the Auburn Undercover podcast here pretty soon as well, so stay tuned for that. Awesome young man. We'll have a story on him on Wednesday morning as well, and his decision on why he chose Auburn and some other stuff as well. So definitely make sure to check us out over there. Subscribe to the YouTube if you're not already. If you enjoyed the video, definitely make sure to give it a like, and we will catch you in the next War Eagle Wake Up.